We just enduring.
Feel it.
We brothers.
For real. Fast. Big script rocker. Yeah. Big tour where you get the wisdom and the knowledge. 144 the top number, 6 dollars. This that gotta live forever, gotta have that. This that ain't about the Lord and they can have that. This that only do the script, so what they mad at? Catch me walking through the fire like I'm Shadrach. As long as that Ruah be with me on his last lap, I know it's coming to a close like some hazmat. They thought they had them streets of gold, we took our half back. I got insured on these ducks like I'm Affleck. I just endured on these smucks, went through all that. Hey, y'all esteem to Yahuwah for them laws, man. 613 ounces in my system, drunk a tall can. I keep on boasting in Yahuwah so we all can. On the same righteous mission, screaming never switch. Even though they really did, I kept it all. Yeah, you say you got the word, what you doing with it? Are you sitting on the talent, are you babysitting? At first you hear the word, then you gotta live the word, you gotta live it. When you're talking about the truth, do you really live it? When you look into the words, do you really feel it? At first you hear the word, then you gotta live them words,
You gotta live them words. Don't tell me that you love me, gotta show me it's a verb. Indeed, I testify we had to get it off the curb. And the fact they overlooked us only proves that they absurd. Toasting with my ox, we raising up that Henny. We teach the 1/3, less is more, so it's plenty. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of bridges burned. I thought I had some friends, they turned out to be against me. We waiting on our king, but you gotta watch for Judas. A lot of meditation and prayer is how we do this. I'm cleansing out my temple of filth just like a Buddhist. And when it come to loving my people, man, I'm the truest. Just looking back on my life, these scriptures took my pain away. I came to the light and watched the darkness fade away. Applying myself, I double my wealth. We gon' praise the Most High while His Son deliver the help. Yash.
Yeah, you say you got the word, what you doing with it? Are you sitting on the talent, are you babysitting? At first you hear the word, then you gotta live the word, you gotta live it. When you're talking about the truth, do you really live it? When you look into them words, do you really feel it? At first you hear the word, then you gotta live them words.
Welcome to another class, to another session of Room 144. My name is Ashna Paj. Got my brother,
Darash, yeah.
Yeah. So as you guys can see, if you could go straight to the PowerPoint, I'm not gonna keep you guys too long tonight. You know, especially the fact that it's wild out there in them streets. You know, due to the fact that our people choose ignorance instead of this truth. But we're gonna go straight to the PowerPoint. The name of the lesson this evening is What New Year? What New Year, right? We just broke records this week. We right here in Los Angeles. We broke records of what? What kind of records did we break this week? Oh, killings, that's a fact. But now, I was talking in regards to the weather, because it's talking about what new year, right? We're in the middle of winter. You see the mountains, they got like over 3 feet of snow just this past week. We broke some records in regards to how much water Los Angeles received from this last storm that it had. So, according to scriptures, New Year, right? What's new? When is it new? What season? In the spring, right? Isn't it like, shouldn't it be like common knowledge? Anybody that was working in the fields back in the day, everybody was working the fields back at the beginning of creation, right? Even up to the 40s, 50s, 60s. Anybody in their right mind understood that the beginning of a new year was between March, late March, early April. Perfect. It was knowledge that was well known. So we're gonna cover right quick. Like I said, it's not gonna be too long. The brother already covered it last week and when he went into Christmas, because New Year's is pretty much still Shlamat. It's still part of the festivities known by the Romans as Saturnalia. Right? But there's a couple of interesting facts that I'm pretty sure you guys here have heard them before. But for, the new people coming into this walk, and also, a reminder for us. We're going to cover this evening. So if we could start off with Isaiah 34:16. Isaiah 34 and verse 16.
Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 16. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them.
Exactly. So straight to the point, right? Let's go to Revelations 1 and 3, and then Proverbs 4 and 2. So the Most High already commanded us. He's like, look, seek ye out of the book. If you want to seek some knowledge, you want to find the truth, look in the book. Go ahead.
Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of the prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand.
Imagine that. And that's why I was saying, we're going to try to get to our houses safely this evening, because we already topping the charts in homicide rates out here in LA this year. I think we're back at number 1, right? Brothers were just talking about a couple of people that got smoked already before the sun even went down. You come out down the block, you see, fireworks and all kinds of foolishness. All kinds of foolishness. The scripture just said, seek ye out of the book, right? It says, read, and ye shall be blessed. Let me get John 5 and 39. So as you guys can see on the PowerPoint in a minute, you're going to see the origin of this. Yeah, 5 and 39.
John chapter 5 and verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them ye think ye have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me.
Exactly. So when you go, let's go to John 10 and 22. Same book, a couple of chapters ahead. So this is Yahweh Shai that was talking, right? We just kept something that we're going to read about in this chapter. And it holds a season. It mentions a season. The season that we're in right now. Winter. Let's see what it's talking about.
John chapter 10 and verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication.
The feast of dedication, right? Hanukkah. Dedication. Go ahead.
And it was winter.
You see? And it was winter. What did we observe like 3 weeks ago? Dedication, right? 8 days of feasting that we could find in the Holy Book, that we could find in the Scriptures. He just said in John 5, right? Seek out of the book that was written of me. If you want to be my follower, my servant, then do so. It's that simple. When we look into Christmas and New Year, as you can see right here, these are customs that came from the Romans. The Romans took them from the Grecians. The Grecians took them all the way to the root, Babylon. It all comes from Babylon. All these customs, all these so-called festivals, they all go back to Babylon. And when you read in the scripture, it talks about Babylon. It talks nothing but negative things about Babylon, being a place of what? Babel, confusion, lies. But that's what our people choose. Our people choose that instead of the truth. When we go up in here, this is what they're celebrating. Janus, a two-faced God, which was looking at the past and at the future. And it held the keys. The brother brought out a book last week that he mentioned, Brother Tazayawan. It's called The Two Babylons. Babylon, I have it in Spanish. What's it called in English? Two Babylons, right? In Spanish is Babilonia Ministerio Religioso. And you go under the festivities, and it even goes into how our brother Peter, because I don't know if anybody here was raised Catholic or knows about Catholicism. Catholicism, they have the foundation based off of Peter. That's the cornerstone, which we read about in the scriptures. Yahweh Shai commanded him to be in charge. But the cool thing about it, and you can read it under the winter festivities off of this book, it talks about, did Peter ever go to Rome? Peter never went to Rome, right? Paul made those missions. But for them to connect Peter into being the head of the Catholic Church. Because remember, that Yahweh Shai left them as the head of the church, not the Catholic Church, not even the Christian church that we know in this present time, right? But they went so far, when you look into it, and I think it's like page 129 or something like that, you'll find the connection with this God right here, this so-called God, Janus, Peter, and interpreter. So they tweaked it out to bring Peter as the head of the church, but at the same time, obviously, it wasn't representing Peter. It was representing the customs of the Romans, of the Greeks, and this individual right here, or this so-called God. But like I said, it's not going to be too long. You guys can check out that book. Everything's up in there. But if you could read that out.
Also for the Romans, New Year's Day was a very important date. But the most interesting fact is that originally the Roman year didn't start on January 1st, but in March.
Look at that. Perfect. Makes perfect sense, right? I mean, that's primavera, spring, the beginning of the seasons. So it's right there. It says also, because above that, it was talking about Christmas. So it's also the reason, the Romans' New Year's Day, as you can see, it wasn't in January 1st, but in March. Either the 1st of March or the 25th of March, depending what time you were looking at. Go ahead.
This was mainly because March was the month dedicated to Mars, the Roman god of war, which was also believed to be the divine father of Romulus, the founder of Rome. Mm-hmm. Due to extraordinary circumstances in wartime, in the year 153 BC, the consul Quintus Fulvius Nobilior exceptionally moved New Year's Day to January 1st for the first time in history.
So you see that? So now 153 BC, they swapped it. They switched it up. And as you're going to see how when we go back and forth, these people are always switching times. That's how you understand what we're going to go into next, Daniel 7:25. So hold it right there. Let's go to Daniel. Because sometimes we read these scriptures, we be like, I guess, right? But we don't really analyze, like even Thanksgiving, Halloween. Halloween is another New Year's for other paganists, other heathen nations, right? But go ahead, read Daniel.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
So for example, I just told brother right here, like with these lessons, I don't like these lessons. They're stupid to me when you really, you ask me. It's like, just don't do it. It's not in the scriptures, that's it, right? But unfortunately, our people have been so brainwashed that sometimes we just can't read the book and be like, look, this is what Pop said to do. And that right there, according to scriptures, is not something that we should be doing. And if we do, there's going to be, judgments for it, right? But again, we got to go into it and break it down so we could understand a little clearer of how these things came to be, when they happen. Because remember, the Most High said, prove all things, right? Examine all things and hold what's good. Keep what is good. Keep what's actual, right? I told you to get Proverbs. Go to Proverbs 4:2. So right here, the scripture said that he was going to think to change times. And they did. And they brainwashed every single one of us. But thankfully, the Most High is revealing all this, has been revealing all this, understanding all this truth throughout the years, right? But go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 2. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law.
That's it. That's all we got to do, right? But let's continue on with this little article. And we're going to go to Mac.
However, it was Julius Caesar in 46 BC with his Julian calendar who permanently established the holiday on January 1st.
So you see, at first, 153 BC, it was switched for the first time, but it wasn't set in stone. Then until 46 BC with the Julian calendar through Julius Caesar, he's the one that switched it up permanently. Go ahead.
The beginning of the year was dedicated to a very peculiar Roman god, Janus. According to the mythology, Janus was the two-faced god of doors. In fact, his name Janus comes from Ianua, door in Latin. beginnings, and passages. That is why the first month of the year, January, was named after him.
You see the resemblance? So it comes from that individual, from a Latin word, right, that we have now as in the English language as January. But we don't look at these things, right? We're going to go to a basic source, a Bible dictionary, to show you exactly what the Most High set for us to follow. And again, it's crazy. We go into these lessons and our people still look at us like we're crazy, like we're making stuff up, you know? But it's all set in history. It's set in the scriptures. It's set in all kinds of different sources, right? Even the enemy explains it. Go ahead.
On New Year's Day, the Romans would go on a procession to the top of Capitoline Hill, where the priests
Sounds familiar, right? Capitol Hill.
where the priests would sacrifice a white bull to ask protection from the gods.
So you see, that's what people don't understand. Just how we have Passover. Passover, brothers that prepare the lamb and all that, it takes a lot of work. It's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing a living animal, right? A life. That's what these Romans were doing. They said they will go ahead and take this animal and sacrifice it on their little Capitol Hill or whatever, right? So these things people don't grasp, like, look, this is what you're partaking of, except that you want to make up your own reasons of why you keep it. Oh, it's for the kids. Oh, it's just a festivity. Oh, it's just time that we come together as a family. I mean, the Most High said all these feasts in Leviticus 23, y'all got to congregate and come together. How come we don't do that? Then, you know? But let the oppressor tell it. We go and do every single thing that he tells us to do. People were happy yesterday because they didn't have to work. Why? Because the oppressor said it. But guess what? Coming up, what is it, Tuesday? It's the new moon day, right? What's the new moon? No, but I'm saying it's Tuesday. That's the day we're not supposed to work. But who knows about that? Who keeps that? Who observes that? But that's what the Most High said. And he said, if you don't follow my laws, guess what? I'm not going to consider you. You are a bastard to me. That's cold right there. Imagine your own creator, your own father telling you, you know what? I don't care for you. To me, you are dead. You are a bastard. That's how deep it goes. But our people look at it like, that was back in the day. That was in the Bible days. I mean, what days are we living? You know? But go ahead,
Where the priest would sacrifice a white bull to ask protection from the gods for the new year. Moreover, the high priest, the Pontifex Maximus, would offer to Janus a pie made of flour, cereals, cheese, eggs, and olive oil to invoke the god's benevolence. The people would then celebrate by feasting together and wearing something red, which was supposed to bring good luck, health, and fertility.
So you see all them colors that we have for Christmas? It's not coincidence. It all resembles and goes back, and it represents something. It's representing that you're serving other gods. Go to Exodus 20 and 5.
Exodus.
See how serious the Most High is. Go ahead.
Exodus 20 and verse 5. Thou shalt not.
Yeah, you go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt, verse 3, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
So that's what the Most High considers. Anybody that keeps these days is somebody that hates the Most High. And he's saying he's going to visit your generations, third to fourth generations after you. So imagine, is that something to take lightly? To many of us. That's why 2/3 already is prophesied in the scriptures is not going to make it, because they're going to choose to continue with this garbage instead of keeping what the Most High commanded us. They rather choose death than choose life. The same thing that we read in Deuteronomy. Nothing has switched. Nothing has changed since back then. Right? Go back to the PowerPoint art. I don't know if anybody ever heard about this right here. the feast of circumcision of Christ. I'm telling you, it's crazy how these heathens go ahead and try to just manipulate everything. If you go back to the days when the church was being set, they were going for numbers, just like this present day. So since they were going for numbers, they will go ahead and manipulate and mix pagan customs with so-called, and I say so-called because they weren't what the Bible was talking about, but something, certain things that the church then was keeping. And it's crazy. When you read articles, it talks about, people don't really care about the truth. Same as this present day, right? So they went ahead and just whatever was popular, right? They just went ahead and tagged along with it. They were like, well, you know what, we're celebrating. Because even with this, think about it. Why would it be, and again, this is New Year's. This is another way that they used to call it for several years. Feast of the Circumcision of Christ. Think about it. How does that make sense? Talk about reaching. But man, the devil is a master of deceit. What's today? The 1st, right? When was Christ born according to the world? The 25th. So from the 25th to the 1st, how many days? 8 days. Imagine that. Wicked. This is the Catholic Church. I was raised Catholic. I never knew anything about 8 days, the 8 days that the Bible talks about a male having to be circumcised on the 8th day, having to be circumcised on the 8th day, right? But they use this to make it, according to them, a righteous celebration. And this was the 1st of January. So go ahead and read this out.
The Feast of the Circumcision of Christ is a Christian celebration of the circumcision of Jesus in accordance with Jewish tradition. 8 days, according to the Semitic and Southern European calculation of the interval of days. After his birth, the occasion on which the child was formally given his name.
Which is scriptural, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
The circumcision of Jesus has traditionally been seen as explained in the popular 14th century work of Golden Legend as the first time the blood of Christ was shed.
Go ahead and jump to the last paragraph.
The feast appears on the 1st of January in the liturgical calendar of the Byzantine Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. In the general Roman calendar, the 1st of January feast, which from 1568 to 1960 was called the Circumcision of the Lord and the Octave of the Nativity.
So you see that? From 1568 to 1960, that's how some of the people kept it, right? That's what they knew the 1st of January by. Go ahead.
It is now the Solemnity of Mary.
Look at that.
Mother of God.
Hold up, though, but Daniel 7:25 is on point, right? But now is the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. Go ahead.
And the octave day of the Nativity of the Lord.
Hold on, let me go to the next one. It kind of sums it up. Read that. Yeah.
The Feast of the Circumcision was celebrated on the 8th day after Christmas, and therefore January 1st. From the very early centuries, Christmas began to be celebrated on December 25th from at least the 4th century, according to Flater, Question 1, Connor Court, 2012.
All right, we covered that already, so go to the second.
Since January 1st was the beginning of the new calendar year.
No, the on the right.
God.
Slack
Even
it.
though the feast was of the circumcision, the text of the Mass and Divine Office came to include many references to Our Lady. Until 1960, the Roman calendar celebrated on January 1st the circumcision and the octave of the Nativity. In the revised calendar of 1960, January 1st was called simply the octave of the Nativity. Finally, the Roman calendar of 1969, the feast became the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God, but it is also referred to as the octave of Nativity. It is fitting that we celebrate Mary's divine maternity on the octave of Christmas when we celebrate the birth of the Son of God. The feast of the Holy Name of Jesus is celebrated on January 3rd.
So you see all that? In the Hispanic community or whatnot, you got a lot of these festivities that go on. I don't know if, hey, Daniel, do you know what the 12th of December what people keep? The day of what? All back to Semiramis. Is the day of their Lady of Guadalupe. That's the 13th, right? So, but it's showing you again, if you know anything about Semiramis, which is what it's really representing, Nimrod, Tammuz, Semiramis, so you can see how it all connects. They go back and forth using the names of Christ and using the name of Mary, which even in her own words, she said, look, don't even worship me. I'm just, the Most High chose me. I'm blessed to be a part of this, to bring forth, Yahweh Shai to save Israel. But you can see all these things, man, and this is another article talking about it. So you guys, can check that out. But it's crazy how it's still observed. But going back into this, let me get Revelations 22, 18 through 19.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 18. Where I testify to every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from the things which are written in this book.
Pretty clear, right? Straight to the point. So, when you look at all these things, if you care to really go into and try to see why these things were kept, when they became, popular, or when did they become something to uphold, you could look at the whole history. It all comes and it stems from the Vatican, which are Romans, which are heathens, which are Edomites, and they were always manipulating back and forth. As you can see right here, they were going back and forth, just like you've seen the calendar. And you can see in the calendar right now, we're going to get straight to the Americas. Like I said, this class is not going to be too long, because it's pretty much, it's a continuation of Saturnalia. And then these points right here is like crazy. I came across that recently as far as the circumcision, but just to show you how wicked how far these people go to manipulate the scriptures, but yet they don't teach you this as being still part of the covenant. Is circumcision still part of the covenant? Right? Sure. Every brother in here is circumcised. Why? Because it was commanded for our forefathers. But then you're going to find articles talking about, that was done away with back in the day, even about the Sabbath. Because you could go back into, this all connects with the history of the Sabbath as well, when they swapped it from being on Saturday to Sunday, the Lord's Day. And they want to explain that because guess what? Yahweh Shai resurrected on a Sunday. So then after his resurrection, everybody was observing Sunday as the holy day, or as the day of the Holy Sabbath. Allegedly, exactly. Because when you look into the scriptures, there's plenty of accounts. You will never find one account talking about them keeping Sunday as the Sabbath. They even talk about doing business on the Sabbath. I think it was like Acts 13 or something like that. It talks about when they were when they would handle business, it was on a Sunday, showing you and proving to you that it was still, the Sabbath was still kept. But then another thing we're going to go into right now is when did America begin to observe this as New Year's? Go ahead and read that out. Oh, go back to the PowerPoint, Salakia.
From Massachusetts Law Updates. Until 1752, England and its British dominions, including those in America, celebrated March 25th as the first day of the calendar year.
So you see that? First, the Julian calendar, right? 46 BC. Then 1582, when the Gregorian calendar was set, that's when it was kept permanently. But remember, not the whole world was keeping what the Vatican or what the Roman people were putting out. Their decree was theirs. So for the most part, the majority of the world then, Europe and all that, they started keeping it in 1582. But the British people, and America comes from the Brits, right? The first 13 colonies. Mm-hmm. They didn't keep New Year's on January 1st until 1752. not too long ago. But let anybody tell it, that's always been the new year. Even in the little piece that we read earlier, it said that even in the States, the New Year's was observed during March. Oh, Salakia, that was the Romans. Even the Romans, observed it during March, which is what the scriptures talk about. But go ahead. Second paragraph.
Since the ancient times, England had used the Julian calendar instituted by Julius Caesar in 45 BC. The Julian calendar followed a solar year of 365 days, but had somewhat an inaccurate method of calculating leap years, which over the centuries led to addition of too many extra days. Originally, January 1st was the date of the new year in the Julian calendar, but after the fall of the Roman Empire, the date gradually changed in various parts of Europe to March 25th.
So they went back.
To conform to the Christian festival of Annunciation.
So look at that. Even that, when you want to go into the scriptures, Annunciation is talking about when the angel came and told Mary what was going to happen, that she was going to bring forth the Messiah. But even that, you got to look back and really analyze it. Because we already read, everything was twisted back and forth to what? To please all the paganist folly days that they were maintaining, that they were keeping. Go ahead.
March 25th, to conform to the Christian festival of Annunciation, England adopted March 25th as New Year's Day in the 12th century. In 1582, in order to make sure that all Christians celebrated Easter on the correct date, Pope Gregory the 13th introduced a new calendar known as the Gregorian calendar.
All right, so he cared for the people to make sure they were going to keep Easter on the proper day, right? So it's just showing you, isn't the scriptures already laid out? How long ago was this book written, right? When we keep Passover is according to the scriptures. You got brothers observing the moon, making sure that the month is coming in at the appropriate time. Brother just uploaded the new dates for 2022, so-called, right? It never switches. We don't have issues. Why? Because the ordinances of the Most High are there. They've been there. They gonna be there. They're perfect. We don't need no Pope Gregory, no Julian, none of that. Julius, right? Or Julian. We don't need none of that stuff because the scriptures already have it laid out. But let the world tell it. Look at how many times, how many things have they not switched? And this is just covering, a little lesson of New Year's. But go ahead.
In the Gregorian calendar, January 1st was the first day of the new year, and a revised method for calculating leap years kept the calendar from becoming unhinged from the movement of the sun and the seasons. Pope Gregory's papal bull announcing the new calendar did not explicitly specify January 1st as the beginning of the year, but he acknowledged as much in his reform of the Catholic liturgical calendar in 1582, which ends on December 31st. In fact, many countries were already using January 1st as the New Year's Day before they adopted the Gregorian calendar. Protestant England did not accept the new papal calendar and stuck to the Julian calendar, as well as the New Year date of March 25th. Scotland changed New Year's Day to January 1st in 1600, but otherwise continued to use the Julian calendar until 1752.
Sounds confusing as hell, right? But just showing you the Protestant church. A lot of people go back and feel like, the Protestants were on point because they were protesting against the Vatican. But even then, they said, but they decided to go ahead with the Julian calendar. So it's showing you again, like in the scriptures, it said, right, seek ye out of the book, none of these shall fail. So while you want to go back in history and try to figure everything out, all you got to do is come up in here and search these scriptures, make sure you understand them and live them and apply them. Because look, the next little slide. Read this part right here.
The charge was made in 2 steps. December 31st, the change was made in 2 steps. December 31st, 1751 was followed by January 1st, 1752.
So we're talking about England, right? Because again, England, Britain, the United States. So 1752. So it's talking about the change, how the change came from March 25th to January 1st. Go ahead.
The switch from March 25th to January 1st as the first day of the year, September 2nd, 1752, was followed by September 14th,
Look at that.
1752.
So it went from what to what?
September 2nd, 1752, was followed by September 14th,
So
1752.
look, how does that make sense? So it went from the 2nd to the 14th.
Dropping 11 days in order to agree with the date of the Gregorian calendar.
Man, going back to Daniel, read Daniel 7 and 25 again. So look at that, right? And then this is why our people are so damn confused. Because then you look at it, hey, brother, how you going to tell me that the Sabbath is the seventh day? But if you look at this calendar, you know, they ate up 11 days. How does that make any sense? Look, Peasy looking confused back there, you know? But these are the things that happen with all these nations, all these heathens manipulating the times, which, go ahead and read it again, Ak.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times,
So remember,
and the dividing of time.
it was a prophecy, right? Because we slipped up, the Most High said, guess what? We going to allow Job, like Job 9 and 24? States that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. The wicked are still controlling it. The wicked are still manipulating it. And they're setting laws. Like if you look at the top, these are all the laws that they were setting up. You could go into them. You could, take a picture of that and actually go into it and read everything. These were things that they were setting up. And then that's how America, because I think Jake covered it last week. Christmas was illegal out here until like the 1800s? Until the 1800s, because they knew the relationship that it had with all the paganist customs, right? But even like right here, it's showing you, okay, as of 1752, they go ahead and swap out the calendars. So just to show you and prove so people don't get confused, that was it. You finished reading that, right? Oh, read the latter part.
Furthermore, the method of calculating leap years was changed to the more accurate method of the Gregorian calendar.
Go ahead.
The change went off without a hitch because popular sources such as the Boston Gazette and Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac included explanations on how to calculate the changes in the calendar.
So it's just showing you how media controls everything. Has controlled it since back then, and it's still controlling it till this present day, right? So I said, look, it went through smooth. Because guess what? The sources, the credible sources back then, they put explanations that people probably didn't even understand, but they were like, okay, cool, sounds good. We'll go with it. But, right? Which is the same thing just with, the jab and everything that's going on nowadays. People trust it. People trust the heathen, the oppressor, instead of trusting the Most High. That's why Romans 1 and 25 goes into it. But, so this is what it looked like back in 1752. But as you can see, for all my brothers out there that start doubting, they didn't mess with the days. It was the numbers. So it went from Wednesday, the 2nd of September, 1752, to the 14th, the following Thursday. How the hell does that work, right? When you look at the scriptures, it's on point. I'm pretty sure, even brothers with last week are like, man, even a little 4 or 5-year-old kid understands these things. When we read in the scriptures, what we read in the scriptures. But this is what happened. This is in 1752, that's when America, or the U.S., through England, started following January 1st as the new year. But as you can see right here, go ahead and get that out.
Month, from the Eastern Bible Dictionary. Among the Egyptians, the month of 30 days each was in use long before the time of the Exodus, and formed the basis of their calculation. From the time of the institution of the Mosaic Law, the month among the Jews was lunar. The cycle of religious feasts depended on the moon. The commencement of the month was determined by the observation of the new moon. The number of months in the year was usually 12, but every third year, an additional month a double Adar, was inserted so as to make the months coincide with the seasons. The Hebrews and Phoenicians had no word for the month save moon, and only saved their calendars from becoming vague like that of the Muslims by the interpolation of an additional month. There is no evidence at all that they ever used a true solar year such as the Egyptians possessed. The latter had 12 months of 30 days and 5 epigmatic, epigmatic, that one got me, or odd days. Palestine Quarterly, January 1889.
All right, so if we go to this source right here, so it's breaking down the months, right? What a month was. According to us, according to the scriptures, we didn't have days, names for the month, except for which one? Abib, for the month of Abib, you know? So after we went into the Babylonian captivity, actually, if you could read that, brother, right here, from right here, the Hebrew month.
From Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary under calendar. The Hebrew month began with the new moon. Before the exile, months were designated by numbers. After the exile, names adopted from the Babylonians were used. Synchronized Jewish sacred calendar. 1, Nisan. 2, Iyar. 3, Sivan. 4, Tammuz. 5, Ab. 6, Elul. 7, Tishra. 8, Heshvan. 9, Kaslu or Kislev. 10, Tebeth. 11, Shabbat. 12, Adar. The Jewish calendar had 2 concurrent years.
That was it right there. So you guys can see in parentheses, right? For like the first month, it shows March and April. The second month, it shows April and May. And that's how it's broken down. That's why you guys, you know, if you guys ever hear us saying there's a new year, Abib's coming in February, then you got to check us. Or February, or Abib is in May this year, then we off, you know, way off. So, and these are the things that you need to know so you understand when we're keeping these feast days, if we're keeping them in the appropriate or in the set time by the Most High. So that's how things were broken down according to scriptures. It wasn't that complicated. It's never been that complicated. But when you went, and that was just, like I said, a brief account, or it was basically, it was something brief that I covered. When you go into all the things that they were doing back and forth, how many times they switched the times or try to switch the times back and forth. We're going back to where we at in this present time, right? Confusion. Let's go straight to the scripture so we can prove when the new year begins. I'll go to, Exodus 12. Exodus 12, 1 and 2.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Mm-hmm. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their father, a lamb for an house.
Yeah, so the first and second verse, right? It's telling you in plain words. It said, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month. As we seen in the calendar right here, in the definition of the calendar, right? It showed either the last 2 weeks of March or the first 2 weeks of April. That's Abib. That is when spring kicks in. You know, you look at other sources that even gives you more details of what constellation you got to be under or in when you keep the Passover. All these things is what you got to really observe and make sure that they fit for us to be able to set up and set out the calendar every year. That's how simple it is, though. You know, we could go back and forth and go into a lot of history, but I mean, that's it. And the Most High said, you know, do not observe. Go to Jeremiah 10. Because again, remember, this festivity right here tonight, today, it's still related to Saturnalia. And this Jeremiah 10 talks about that. Go ahead, 10 and
Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse.
yeah, you go straight to 8. You guys already know what Jeremiah talks about, right? 10 and 2, so-called Christmas, right? Look at what 8 says.
But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities.
That's all that is. Most High said, all these things that people observe, they're brutish, they're foolish, stupidity, right? They are all vain. That's how the Most High feels about it. And we read in Exodus 20 and 5, he says, I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of those that hate me, from the 3rd up to the 4th generation. So then you wonder, well, I mean, it's just a simple celebration. We just coming together with family. Well, according to the scriptures, not only you going to be cursed, but your baby and their babies and their babies and their babies are going to be cursed for you keeping these, folly days. So it's serious, Akim. It's serious, and we got to go back and make sure, give me Deuteronomy 10 and 12. Also, you guys could take down Esther 9 and 1, Esther 3 and 7, Esther 9 and 1. It talks about Nisan, which was, like we read in the dictionary, another name for Abib, right? And Adar being the last month. So it's showing you right there. It don't mention no 13th month, 14th, 15th. Remember, there is a double Adar. The reason why we have a double Adar, does anybody know? Just seeing if they caught, if they caught it. If we don't have a double Adar, remember, Passover must be in what season? In the spring. So, for example, this upcoming year, we're going to have a double Adar. Because if we didn't have that double Adar, then we would have Passover still in the winter. That's how simple that is. But you guys could go into the definition. So that's what it's talking about right there in Esther. And 1 Chronicles 27, that whole chapter, it mentions the duty of, it breaks down the captains. And it talks about first month, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way to the 12th. So it's showing you exactly how many months there was in a year. The brother already read it as well. And then you go to Exodus as well, 30 days in a month. So everything goes back and it makes perfect sense. But if we go according to what the world sets up, all we're going to have and end up with is confusion and death, But finish up with that, Deuteronomy 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee?
It's real simple. Let's see what he requires of us.
But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
That's it. So it's that simple. Like I said, I wasn't going to keep you long. Hopefully it made sense. But, that's this pagan is folly day that people keep. It's against the Most High. It's full of confusion. And the Most High already stated, come, what is it, April 16th, right? Or April 2nd, that's our New Year's. So all Israel, April 2nd, 2022, so-called, that'll be our New Year. That's when you're going to see us right here celebrating our Abib. Until then, we're still in the winter. And with that, we say shalom till the next one.